Yo, you're in the studio with Leon Switch, and today we're going to talk about drums. I'm going to show you my process of taking a drum loop, cutting it up, processing it, and then programming it basically. I've had a couple of messages this week after last week's live stream, basically asking me how I do this. I did cover it in the tutorial, but unfortunately, due to my internet connection, it all got lost. So we'll cover it now. I don't think it'll be a massively long tutorial, but hopefully it'll be insightful. We'll take a couple of different loops and we'll cut it up and we'll see how we get on. So I have a drum loop here. If I just switch to Ableton. So here we go. So I have a drum loop here, and I drag that into my audio channel here. If I double click on it, then you can see all the transients. Let's make this a bit smaller so we can, there we go. Follow along pretty easily then. So basically the first thing I do is I drag, like I say, a drum loop that I like straight into an audio channel. Here's how it sounds. There's a couple of things I note. The first thing is that it's automatically warped when it's imported into an audio channel on Ableton. The warp mode is beats, which is what I'm after for drums. So double check that's on beats and not on complex or complex pro. The next thing we need to look at is this little button here, which is the like the loop function for if the audio file is playing slower than what the original tempo. So the original tempo of the audio file was 174 BPM. The tempo I've got set at the moment is 140 BPM. So you can see it's kind of getting stretched. It doesn't sound terrible, but it's got like a metallic-y sort of sound to it. So if I switch this to the one-shot mode, you hear that it becomes a bit more choppy. But now we haven't got any funky sort of tail ends on the audio. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna right click. Before I do that, I'm gonna double check I'm on 1/16 on the quantize, and then I'm going to right click and quantize the audio. What we're going to notice is that it's caught all of the big transients in the file, but it's missed a few here, and there's one here that I know of that it's missed. So we'll just zoom in here and we'll add these in. So double click here, and then we'll zoom in a bit more and see how accurate it was. That wasn't too bad at all. And we'll do the same thing here. Right, so as we can see, that's slightly off that one. So if I hold shift on the keyboard and then I drag, single click and drag, there we go. So that's now bang on. We want to come to the right here, and I know there's another hit here. So if I zoom in here, we can just shift again and just move that about until we sort of get it in the right sort of place. These cuts going to be adjusted afterwards. So let's have a quick look here. That's not looking too bad. That's looking good. Okay, so let's come out of this. And now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the audio file, and I'm going to go slice to new MIDI track. This is going to, so the first thing we need to do, is we need to double check that it's on warp marker because we've quantized it and we've added the markers in. And then we leave the slicing preset, well, I leave the slicing preset as built in. So we got OK on there. It's going to slice out the 37 hits. So as we can see, if we just click through here, we can see that we've got all 37 cuts of that drum loop. And if I hit play on these, we can hear that they're pretty good. So if we double click on that first hit there, I just need to unplug my keyboard and plug it back in again. 2 seconds. Right, we should now have some hot steamy action. There we go. So I don't know if you can see with the camera here, but it's now across the keyboard. And the cuts are sounding pretty good. Okay, so this is something that I ran into the other day and it took me ages to work out what was going on. So if I hold a key on, we've got like a loop going on. And what I found out was if you adjust this loop length and just turn it off, we've now just got the single hit. So it will just one shot through it. Brilliant. Okay, so let's just double check. Double check that start point quickly. Like, I'm not scared of taking the start point up a bit further than what maybe it should. But we're listening for this endpoint. We don't want any clicks on the end of the samples here. So if I bring the here, that's just got that slight, you can hear kind of the beta on the drum. Once again, it just makes it a little bit sharper. Looks like quite a gap. What was that? At the end there. We can adjust that with the envelope. Double check on that. Once again. There we go. So we got some funkiness happening here, which we don't need. Just double check that start point. Okay. I like that hit. Start points again. And it's just pretty rough. And you may be kind of thinking that, well, I don't need all these hits, but I like the idea of the whole kit being completely solid, the whole bit being completely sorted, so that I've got options, you know, and that's all we want. There we go, just zoom in here a little bit. Just trying to lose that. There we go. So there's a good chance we wouldn't use that hit in there, but we've still got it. And that's our last cut. Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, so the kit is now cut up, so I can now lose the audio file of the kit. It's given me the programming as to what the audio was, but I'm not interested in that. So what I will do is I'll now just create a MIDI clip, and we can now start programming this up. So I've got 4 bars, I've got 37 hits. Like I say, there's a good chance we won't be using all of those hits, if half of them. But it does mean we've got a few different snares that we can play with. So let's start programming these up. So we're on 140 BPM. So it's going to be kind of more the dubstep sort of style drums. Nice. Okay, so we're going to switch these 2 around here. Nice. Nice. All right, so now we've got this number 8 hit here. So if we come back to the drum rack and we go to slice 8, which is here, we should have that snare. No, 9. Come on, let's go back. Where was it? I thought it was 8. 6. My apologies. So slice 6, which is this one. Right, and what I'll do now is I'll select slice 6 and I'll go to the audio effects here and we'll grab the reverb and we'll put the reverb just inside this bracket here. So if it's inside this bracket, then it's going on the individual hit. So if I hit the bass drum now, this slice 1, you can hear there's no reverb. The snare, slice 3, there's no reverb. There's slice 6, which is the reverb that I've just put on. So we've just got reverb on that one individual snare now. So we'll bring the dry wet down. We'll take the decay time up. The size will take up, the stereo will take up, and we'll lose the weight out of it. Anybody that's seen any of my videos before will know that that's pretty standard with me. The density will go up and the scale will go up. So we should now have... Nice. So if we just come back to this programming now, we now know that slice 6 is a reverbed snare. Nice. So let's move this across to the snare position. And let's move this to here. Let's have a look. Right. So here's our little fill snares and our ghost snares. So let's have a look here. So we can put a little fill snare in here. So I'm going to class that as a, we've got snare, hi-hat, kind of like another hi-hat. So we'll use that. Yeah, so we can kind of build a pattern. Fill this up with some more hats and stuff. There we go. And then if we duplicate this across, Control D, so Control A to select all, Control D to duplicate. And then this snare that we put in, this one here, let's just change that to a normal snare for the second, so we haven't got any reverb until the very last bar. Nice. And we could even lose the drums after that. Now the only thing I'm not keen on with this is because the original loop was at 174, it sounds like everything's being cut off, and that isn't something that I find particularly attractive sounding. And this is where I now play with the envelope. the amplifier envelope. So first things first, let's just get this playing, and then we can adjust this to attack, decay, and sustain and release. It's basically going to be your decay and sustain that we're adjusting. So we'll let it play, and then we'll adjust this and make it so that it sounds a bit more natural. So the first things first, we'll lose the sustain, and we'll increase the decay very slightly. So we can hear that we're catching that transient quite nicely. Like back here, it's too clicky. So we're just getting just that transient and the very slight kind of bit after it. So if I now start increasing this sustain a bit, we should start to sort of fill out the end of those drum sounds a little bit. We don't want too much, but it should just start to sound a bit more natural. Try bringing the decay back a little bit, take the sustain up. So the shape of the hits now, the shape of the drums, if you could sort of visualize it, they're a bit more natural sounding, you know? There's something about them now that you're not hearing all those sharp cut-offs, you know? It's, I mean, my personal opinion is that it sounds a bit more natural. Right, now let's have a quick look at the mixer here. So we're just coming up to -6 dB, which is a good point for me. I like that. That's where I like everything in the mix to sit. So I've now double clicked on this compressor. This has gone after this bar, so it's going to affect every drum hit in the rack. We don't want the side chain, so what we're going to do is we're going to give it a touch here, maybe 4, ratio of about 4, and we're going to very slightly bring this down till we start to grab it. Then we can drop the volume here a touch, bring the volume down here a little bit. Bring that back up, and then just... So without the compressor. With. It's just got a little bit more sort of balls to it as it was, you know? So the other thing that I quite like to do with drum kits, and it's very, very light, but once again, make it so that you've got your first slice selected, and then turn on the filter, right click, and copy value to siblings. And then whichever slice you click on now has the filter turned on. And then the next thing I'm going to do is go select clean and select OSR. Once again, right click, copy value to siblings, and you can now see that OSR is now selected as the drive type. And then we can now turn the drive up to about 3, roughly about 3. That'll do. Right click, copy value to siblings. And then we should just get another gain boost, but we should also just add a little bit of grit to those drums. And it will be subtle, very subtle. And we might have to adjust the output volume again, but the idea is there. Turn you up a little bit here. And then we could even add a touch of reverb on the overall drums just to make it sound a bit more natural. But it's obviously way too much. So dry wet, like all the way down till we can only just sort of hear it. The size we'll bring down this time. Take the stereo up, and we'll bring the decay time down. Lose the weight again in the reverb. If I turn it up so you can hear it. So that's the sound of just the reverb. Start to bring that down. Take the pre-delay off. Nice. So without the reverb. And then with. So it's just subtle, but it just kind of works, you know. Like the idea with that is that it's just going to give it a little bit of an ambience, a little bit of a room, and it's going to make the drums sort of less sharp as it was, but it's more the tail end of the drums, you know. So what we're going to do now is we're now going to try some different tunings on these drums. So the first thing I do is I'm going to knock it down by 3, and then right click, copy value to siblings. That's transpose -3, right click, copy value to siblings, and then let's listen to that. So maybe a little bit too much, let's try 2, copy value to siblings. That's quite nice. So once again, we can have a little play with this ADSR. That's sounding really nice. So what I want to do now is just come back in with the drum program in a little bit. These fill snares, I'm going to drop the volume on them. So they're just a bit more subtle. Right, so the hats all want to come down a little bit in volume. So if I just so if I click on the key, which is a hat, if I then hold shift and I click on another key, then we've then got them selected. That's a snare, that is a bass drum, that is a hat. So if I now slice 8, holding shift again, there we go. So I can now grab the whichever one I want that's selected and just drop the volume on them a little bit. Right, so let's change this to the like the splashy sort of style. There we go. Right, so this one as well. So let's go up an octave, up an octave. And what's this snare saying? That's a nice snare. Pretty much the same snare as that. Okay. And there we go. So that's kind of how I approach the dubstep sort of style drums and my drums in general. It's all the same sort of method. I might use a few different plugins here and there or whatever, but the idea is the same. It always sort of comes back to the same sort of idea of everything kind of working together and being relatively simple, but everything being just enough. Nothing sort of oversaturated, nothing sort of overplayed, nothing's kind of overdone as it was. So even the reverb, where we got the reverb snare, slice 6, wasn't it? It's there, and you notice it, but it's not like swimming. I mean, if you want that, then by all means grab a reverb unit and shove 20 seconds of reverb on it. But the idea being for me is that it's a fill. You know, it adds that, fills that bit of space at the end without actually really doing anything, which is always a bonus. So that was kit 1 with the dubstep drumming. So what we'll do now is we'll do the same thing. So I'll move that along. I'm going to switch the tempo up to 174. And we'll now program up some drum and bass drums. Luckily enough, we'll use the same kit and it's already processed. So we'll we'll have a quick look and we'll have a play. I know this kit's going to work nice for the drum and bass programming. I'm a little bit excited, I'm not going to lie. Okay, so drum and bass program is a bit different to dubstep. It's normal time rather than half time. So your snares fall on the second beat, depending on what programming you're doing. But I'm one of my favorite. I'll just program it. You'll see one of my favorite programming. Let's just find out what these keys are. Right, there's my fills. So there we go. So it's a really good kit for that. These ghost snares and fills are just essential, especially for drum and bass, you know. I mean, I like the idea of having the freedom with having the ghost snares and the fills, this kind of stuff, because I feel it really sort of opens everything out. And you might not use them in a track, you know, you might not use them at all when you're programming up some drums, but to have them there and not use them is going to be better than to not have them there and then think, damn it, I wish I had a kit with that. And that's one of the things I look for when I'm making kits. So right, okay, so let's now grab this again, copy this across, and then we've got kind of pattern, sort of bar one of pattern one. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab this, copy this across again to here, and then grab the snare in this, and then duplicate that. So that's our general pattern. So we'll Control A, duplicate that, and then those, they just make it running, you know. And there, I do like if I sort of switch this out for a bass drum. There we go. You don't want like a heavy bass drum for that hit, but that could work quite nicely. And we could switch it out a bit more, so we can put this back to where it was. And this one, just because we're there. But it's just running. So this last one, once again, we could lose that. Bang this on that number 6. Where is it there? So you get the idea. Something else that I quite like to do while I'm programming drum and bass drums is get the second snares. So every other snare, not so much this one because it's the reverb snare, and we'll move it to another snare. There we go. Let's just double check that. So cut 11 is what we're after. So if we come to cut 11, it should be a snare. And now what we're going to do is we're now going to pitch this down 1 semitone. Just adds that bit of variation with the snares. So that there is that's basically how I program up my drum and bass drums when I'm writing drum and bass. I mean, you can go in further, and I mean the good thing with these kits with the slices is you can. So let's grab an EQ8. Let's put an EQ8 just on that bass drum, so you can either drag it to the key there, and that just adds it to that one bass drum. So if I just so you can hear it, if I high pass that for a second. You can hear any time that bass drum plays, it's obviously high pass. So if we take the high pass back up of that, and we can now EQ this bass drum however we want. So we can add a little bit more thump. We could even add that high pass back on and just use it for the very low end on that kick. And we could even, if we wanted to come to the actual slices here, we could group these snares together, so we can find out where the snares are. We know that 3 is a snare, 6 was a snare. So if I hold Control, select 6. So we'll just do those 3. So 3, 6, and 11. So 11, 6, 3, and then we could group them. And then we've got a snare group, which we can then process these all together as one. We can now solo our snares. So if we want to now add, say, an EQ8 onto the snares, you can see it's just the snares coming through there. So we can once again lose the low end. Doesn't hurt it at all. With the low end of that snare, just a little bit of a boost. Shove this over here, turn it so that is right. I mean, this is very, very rough, very quick, you know, but the idea is there. So if we now go back to the overall drums, we've got this section at the end here, which is the processing on the whole kit. So we could now grab, say a saturator, and put it before the compression, and just bring the dry wet down quite a lot. We don't want to kill it. And then let's see how that sounds. Nice for that snare with the reverb. There you go, without it. Hasn't hurt the bass drum too badly. We could come back to the bass drum and we could just make sure we're replacing that weight. Don't want to go too low with it. So there you go. That's that kit pretty much processed. So what we'll do is we'll name that and we'll go processed drums. And what I have a tendency to do, I don't know if anybody else does this, but I have a tendency to duplicate the track. So I've now got 2 versions of that same track. If I come back to this page, you can see we've both got 2 of these exactly the same processes. If I move this along, this will now be my drop, and this will now be my intro kit. So I can now right click, go to the beginning and intro, process drums. And now if I bang up auto filter on there, we can now, I normally put this just after the kit before the saturation and everything. We can now go high pass, and we've now got, you know, we've now got like a kit that's ready for an intro. It's got no weight in it. It's super cool. So yeah, so that's, if I then drop it into the main drums, in fact we'll go, here we go, let's just go twice around with this, can duplicate that, just come into here, just, we're good, we've got the reverb snare on the end there. And then, excuse the motorbike in the background there. And then, then use your drop. So you can see just by literally just adding a very slight high pass on it, then we've created that intro kit and the and the main kit, you know, just by separating them really simply. So let's grab another kit. Let's start again with this, and let's just go through this process again, so you can see it with something slightly different. Let's just grab this in. I'm not entirely sure what the kit is, but we'll have a little listen. So let's solo this. Maybe not that kit. Let's try one of these. Because of how I'm recording, the preview isn't working through the speakers or through the headphones, so I'm having to wing it with you guys. Yeah, that's quite nice. Okay, so let's go with that. So we can see we've got quite a basic kit here. We can see that the cuts are pretty bad, pretty all over the place. So, and it's not even picked up on a cut there. So we'll manually do this one. So we'll stick a point in here, and we'll zoom in. We'll bring this start point to there, so we can adjust it in the sampler afterwards. Let's go to our next hit. It's about here. Once again, let's just bring it in slightly. That's holding shift and then select, and then holding shift and then clicking and dragging, you know. Put that point in there, and to make these points I'm just double clicking. So if I come to about here, there we go. Double clicking to put the warp marker in there. So I think that's all of the hits there. What's this behind here? Have we got more drums behind here? Well, we'll just, let's have a quick look. Have we got a better? I think it's pretty much the same kit over and over again, but that'll do. That's fine. That's all we need is just those few hits there. So I'm not worried about the timing on them. I'm not bothered. So right click, slice to new MIDI track. That's gonna slice on the warp markers, which is what we're after. We're gonna use a built-in preset. Once again, get rid of the audio and get rid of the program that it's given me. And then we should have, if I unsolo that, on the keyboard now. So it's classed the first hit as this silence. We've got this loop thing happening again. So we'll turn the loop off. You hear that click? We don't want that. There we go, and let's just double check. So that, as much as it looks ugly, it's actually part of the initial transient, the initial hit of that bass drum. So we got a lot of weight in that hat because it's on the tail end of that kick. And then snare, let's have a look here. So we're not actually losing anything by taking that start point up. And then we should have another hat, which we have. Let's just zoom out here. I don't know why it's felt the need to cut it in half. And so you can sort of pick your points. I mean, what I might try with this is have the first hit there, and then if I hold control and then drag this to the next square, we've now got the same hit again. Let's zoom into it. And let's move this across. Where are we? There we are. And let's just take this point up to these. You see there's slightly different transients on those, on the beginning parts there. Excuse me. Right. So this hat here we need to look at, and let's put a filter on this. Let's give it a high pass, and let's take the frequency down. There we go. Nice. So once again, we'll now play with the envelope. Cool. And then we'll knock that down to 140 again. So we're back at dubstep sort of style tempo. And we will now draw in some drums, program in some drums. So these channels are turned off. We're not going to hear the last kit. So let's go, what have we got here? So 4 bars. There, that'll do. insert MIDI clip, and then we're going to go Control L and just loop it around that for the second. Here we go. We haven't got many hits here at all, so we can bring that down. So we've just got these on show. The first one's a dead hit. The second one is this bass drum. So let's go. Let's try that. Nice. So let's duplicate that and let's just move a few bits about. Let's try that. Nice. And let's grab this bars, copy that across again and again. And let's have a quick play with this envelope now that we've got it running. There we go. Let's try drag. Right, that hasn't hurt that bass drum at all, just taking that endpoint in. And once again, let's check out the transpose here. Let's try -3 again. It might be too low. So let's try like plus, not 15, let's try +3. Like, there's nothing wrong with just placing it there and seeing what happens. It's either going to work or it's not. As that happens, that didn't work so well. Let's try -2 again. Nice. Right, that snare is asking for some reverb. So let's grab that, audio effects, let's go reverb, let's drop that on that snare. That's nice. Take the pre-delay off, low cut. Size down. Nice. And let's just grab the saturator again, put that after everything in the chain. And let's just give it a little bit of drive here. See what we're saying level wise. Yeah, we're not terrible at all. Bass drum's a little bit woolly, but it's just the nature of that kit, I'm afraid. So now let's grab the compressor. What I do like to do with some of the kits sometimes is if I come around to here and I grab the individual slices again, and I work out where my hats are. So we got slice 3, 6, and 5. So if I group them together, 3, 6, and 5, 3, 5, and 6, group. And now what I can do is I can now put a compressor on these, and I can now sidechain these to the bass drum and snare drum. So that should then give me where are we there? Not intro process drums, the audio. Is that right? Where are we? Number 5, sorry. There we go. So what we can do here is we can now work out what slices we've got. So we know that the bass drum is slice 2. So if we go pre-effects on slice 2, and we'll bring down the threshold. The ratio is already up. And we'll duplicate this. And we'll now specify that it's the snare now, which is slice. What slice is that? That is slice 4. So we want to go now slice 4. And we'll go pre-effects. And it may just be subtle. But the idea being is that we then get a very slight ducking and a gelling happening with the hats and the bass drum and snare. So if I just turn these off for a second, and then back on again. Just get a very slight movement out of that, out of the hats. So once again, let's go back to the whole kit and let's look at this compressor. So we're now going to compress those drums just very lightly. So to watch the output volume here, we've got quite a lot of volume. I do try and hit just -6 with this. I mean, I will bring it up for the sake of the purpose of what we're doing here. When you have got a dry wet switch on the compressor, so we could bring the compression down a bit harder and then bring the dry wet back so we get that sort of parallel sort of style. So without the compressor, just solids up, just a little bit, you know? Play with that dry wet a little bit. Brilliant. And there we go. So that is basically 2 kits that are cut up. I mean, I could program up the drum and bass drums with this kit if you wanted me to. There we go, let's move that out of the way. Let's move this to where the other dubstep drums are. And let's just program very quickly, insert the MIDI clip and then go 174 on the tempo. And we can now, where are we? C1 is what we're after here. There we go, it's our slices. So we haven't got many slices. There we go. And once again, we're sort of full time as it was, or double time. So luckily enough, we got these 2 hits, so they might work as a little sort of ghost sort of style snare. I mean, we could just use the kick drum, more sort of club style programming. Let's grab this, put this at the end here, and then just grab a single hat after that. There we go. Duplicate that across, and again twice. So that would be nice if that very last one there continued on from here. So if we go, where are we? So we go, if we lose these, yeah, let's lose the fill snare and the hat there, and then we'll grab this section here, and we will duplicate that, and make sure that snare falls back on the second beat, and then we'll do the same again, and the snare should fall on the beat 4 or beat 3, beat 4. So I'd say it's probably too much reverb for drum and bass for the snares. So just bring this down. Better. And then what we could do, if we really wanted to, is we could now use the previous kit as like a fill sort of style, like a cut 2 kit. If we come in here and then we just basically grab, where are we? So if we'll just grab all of this till the last bar, and then we'll hit 0, which will mute these all off. And then we'll come to the last bar on this one, and we'll do the same. So grab, where are we? Grab all these, and then we'll leave the last snare maybe. So let's try something like that. So wrong programming, but you kind of get the idea. So if I just, where are we? Let's get rid of this. So we don't want them for there. We want a bass drum. cool. Let's just make sure that's playing. And then we want a hat. Let's switch this to here. Put a bass drum in. Very basic, but you kind of get the idea there with how we could switch between the two kits. But anyway, that's going to wrap this up. I hope that's been insightful and helpful. It's pretty much just Ableton stock plugins with the reverbs and that kind of stuff. There's nothing complicated there at all. It was just Ableton stock plugins, I think. Yes. Yeah, and I'm not adverse to the Ableton plugins. I think they're pretty good. They do exactly what they say on the tin. There's no flashy interfaces and stuff, which I don't mind at all. But yeah, I hope that's made up for me not putting a stream out tonight. I apologize about that again. It's a real shame. Let's come back to this view for a second. So that's a real shame, and I'm a bit upset about it. But next week we should have internet, and everything should be running. So yeah, big up. Once again, much love. Thank you so much for watching and for all the support. Any recommendations or suggestions, or if you think I'm just doing something wrong, or if you think there's a better way of doing something, then leave it in the comments. I'm all ears, always all ears, you know. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm very stuck in my ways with everything. So yeah, definitely give me a hand if worst case scenario, you know, any heads up on anything, then yeah, I'm all ears. So much love, big up, take care, and stay safe in this crazy time that we're living in right now. And yeah, thank you for watching. Cheers for your time. Big up, much love. Bye.